Thank you, Samantha. Alex, I'll bring you in as well now. I mean, I know you spent several weeks on two different trips down in the south of Peru in December and in January, facing some of these same issues in terms of driving around and dealing with these roadblocks. Just to paint the picture for people who might not know it intimately, I mean, what were the roads like when you're driving through the Andes? And through these mining areas, through the southern towns, what were the roadblocks like? What were the people who were manning these roadblocks like, and what was the atmosphere?
Yeah, that's interesting because especially in the South, there were like a lot of manned blockades, and the biggest challenge was that immediately, every time we rolled up to any one of them, they were like, "You're not going to pass. Like, we're not letting anyone pass." And then from there, it just became a negotiation. There's, lots of resentment towards local media. So a lot of it was just kind of explaining our job, what we were doing. We showed them previous stories we did in the past. We explained the reason why we wanted to go to this city, Juliaca. And it depended, it varied. Sometimes it would just take a few minutes of talking. I think the longest time we were held up was 3 hours. And that was in this mining corridor blockade, which was quite high. It was 4,700 meters, which is like about 15,000 feet. And that was the one we got stuck at for a while. And the altitude turned out to be a big challenge there. And somebody in our team got sick, altitude sickness. So that was actually a surprising challenge. And when we were out interviewing, when we were out talking with people, it suddenly hit all of us kind of at the same time. And then it just became kind of learning how to deal with that, also adapting. They have a nice local solution, agua florida, which is this kind of alcohol you put on your hands and you smell. That is like a local solution to deal with altitude and coca tea, which helped a bit. For us, the biggest challenge was just also the patience of blockade after blockade after blockade, and knowing that in each one, you didn't know how long you were going to stay there. You had to stay friendly. You had to stay conversational. Sometimes some people would let you through, and then a person would come in at the last minute and be like, "I don't want them to come through." And then it would have to turn into convincing that person. That was kind of, and then the roads were just completely filled with debris, rocks. So even the unmanned blockades, that's why it was essential to go during the day, because at night you never knew what hazards were going to kind of be on the road.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the hostility to reporters. Just on that point, did you face any sort of hairy moments like that in your reporting, either on the roads or in the towns? Were there any challenging moments that you had to navigate?
Yeah. So most of the time it was fine. When we explained that we were international press, what we were there doing, people would understand, and the tides would turn and they would be very friendly for us. But we kind of got attacked by protesters in Juliaca because there wasn't a lot of time to explain during this protest. And there was one instance where there was this kind of drunk protester who took it against our cameraman, and he riled up the crowd against him, and there was no time to really calm things down. They kind of threw a rock at him and started kicking him, and we got out of that situation. And then later in that same thing, we saw them kind of steal a phone of a local reporter, and that's when we knew we needed to get out. But during that exit too, this one woman kind of accused me of being like an infiltrator. I should have, looking back, kind of talked to her and stopped, but we just kept going to the car to kind of leave. And then in that instance, she kind of riled up more people against us, and they kind of chased our car down. It was kind of hairy because we had to go through protesters. The ones in front of us, we kind of started telling them that we were press, and then while this big mob was forming in the back chasing us, and luckily we got out in time there.
Mm-hmm. And just to add some context on that, Juliaca, which you mentioned, was the site of the worst single day of violence the Peru protests have seen in January, where there were I think 17 people killed in a single day. Thank you for that, Alex.